Hey, welcome to my studio. What I thought I'd do for you guys is to try and create a window into my studio. Try and take you on a journey of seeing and an insight into seeing how I work and how I record an album. And so I thought, I've been thinking about this, and I thought the best way of doing that would be to take you on the journey of creating Medicine Woman 6. Medicine Woman 6 Synchronicity. And so keeping it pretty simple and informal. There's nothing too elaborate, no DVD or documentary here. It's just a video diary, which I'll post on YouTube and Facebook. And I thought I'd make one of these at each sort of poignant stage of creating the album. And so it'll get a lot more involved in this. This is right at the beginning. And I won't keep it too technical, but I'll get a little bit technical here and there for those that want to see that. Musicians that might be in the audience with you. And amongst you. So really, for me, an album is a bit like... well, the best analogy is building a house. You don't just walk into a field and start building a house. Let's just make it up as we go along. Which is what some artists do, and what if you're a much more inexperienced younger artist, you tend to do that. You think, just charge into the studio, start writing something, and you get to the end of your album and you think, okay, what am I going to call it? What's the cover going to look like? Oh, we'll get somebody else to do that. And as a result, the outcome is weaker, or it falls over, or it doesn't work at all. And experience taught me to do the cover first. So this is the prepping stage, the very first part of doing an album. Creating that blueprint for your house, creating the blueprint for the album. So what I do is I have an idea obviously in mind, and a title and a concept, and so I see if I can create the cover. If I can create the cover, then I know that the title and the image all gels and expresses that idea properly, and I communicate properly, and I get my idea across to you. And so if that works, if the cover, it sounds like working backwards, but it isn't really, it's completely logical. If that works, then you know that the effort, then it gives you, how can I put this? It gives you the goal. You can focus, you can see the cover, you can go in on and look at it, and you can visualize where you're heading, what the style should be, what the content should be, that it's going to work and it's going to look like this, and that is the end result. And that gives you something like a target. It gives you something to aim at. Even if you tweak it or change it later, that doesn't matter. But that gives you the direction of the journey. So in this case, Medicine Woman 6, I've already created the cover. I know that the style works because there's been previous sequels. And so I've already done all that. Okay, I've got the title, Medicine Woman 6, Synchronicity. Got the cover. Okay, so that's that bit that's been prepped. That's given me the first part of the blueprint. The next part is, and this goes for an album I may have not ever done in a style before. So let's ignore for a minute that this is a sequel. So I would choose the instruments. How am I going to express that concept? Let's say the concept is about the jungle or something. And so what you don't want is something that's too electronic. You don't want something too rocky or something. You want what would be jungly. You'd go for certain sounds and certain instruments for certain regions and certain cultures. So what I do is I hunt down all those instruments and sounds and everything. And these days, the solo studio is a computer, and inside the computer is all the software, and the software has all the sounds in it. So I would search through my database of sounds and create a list of where to find the particular piano I think will work, or the particular marimba, or the particular this and that and so on, which flutes I might use, and so on, which stringed instruments I might use, what It's a bit like a painter choosing his sound palette, or going back to the house analogy. If you're going to decorate your house, you don't just sort of walk in and grab any old paint. You'll have chosen some kind of palette of choices, a choice of colours. And to me, instruments and sound is colour anyway. It's a palette. It's a canvas of sound. And sound is colour and colour is sound anyway. It's the same thing, really. So I will have done that, and I will have printed something out. When I've chosen all my instruments for my journey, I'll have done that kind of thing. You won't be able to see that on camera, but it's just a printed list of all the instruments. And that saves me time, because another thing is when you're recording and using today's technology, you've got such a vast choice of everything these days. I mean, you've just got to go into a supermarket and say, I want some peas, and there's probably like 4,000 varieties. Well, it's just like that in music. You think, oh my God, I've probably got like 8,000 pianos or something ridiculous. I haven't, but you get the idea. You're so bogged down with choices that it's kind of crazy. And if you're in the middle of being inspired and you think, I want a piano, this'll really, some sort of haunting, creepy sort of piano just there. And then you spend 4 hours looking for the right one. By the time you've found it, you've kind of lost the inspiration and the idea, and you're tired, and the whole thing's kind of lost that magic moment. So by having a list, it's a bit like having a map to a secret place. Or a map around a maze. That's probably a better analogy. So it helps me to find the sound straight away. So I don't lose that spark of idea, that spark of emotion. For me, it's all about getting as close to what's in my head as possible to you as best I can. And the way of doing that is by doing it quickly and efficiently, and finding the right sound at the right moment. So you capture magic, you capture frequency, you capture energy, healing, light, love, whatever, sadness, whatever the emotion that you're conveying and is in your heart gets caught instead of faffing around with electronics. And so that's why I create that list. It saves an awful lot of time. That's why I create the cover. Saves all the time. It keeps everything focused. Click, 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 click. Aiming for that target, which is all about expressing yourself properly. And that's just developed over the years. So moving on from prepping, I've got my title, I've got my cover, I've got my sounds all organised. What's next? Composing. Now the best way to show you how I compose is if I switch the camera to the keyboard here. So I'll just switch this off and I'll be right back. That's if I can find the remote. Hello and welcome back. Okay, this is my mother keyboard. They're called mother keyboards because they have no actual sounds on them of their own. They're completely dummy. Duh. They have no presets, no instruments, no sound whatsoever. They purely produce an electronic signal called MIDI from the keys that goes into the computer. And as that MIDI note goes into the computer, you can assign it to trigger software, and it is that software that is the instrument. So there's lots and lots and lots and lots of instruments inside my computer, synthesizers and keyboards and samples and so on, that get triggered from my performance. So this single keyboard is all that I need and all that I will use to play anything from an orchestra to an oboe. You name it, synthesizer sounds, it's all here. So now, when it comes to composing, particularly when it's a Medicine Woman album, there's a certain way that I choose to play. I'm not keyboard trained, not in the least. So, but something I discovered over the years, and I tend to much prefer, is I tend to go for minor chords instead of major chords. Major chords tend to be upbeat and happy. So if I went like that, it's all nice and cheerful. But if I went, that's the minor. So immediately a minor chord makes something sound more poignant. It can be sad, it can be more emotional, it can be mystical, apprehensive. It's just got that ooh factor. Whereas a major is more sort of cheerful. So I don't go for major chords. I tend to write in minor chords. And instead of playing a minor chord, if you've got to say, for instance, you've got a how to play the keyboards book, a tuition book, it would show you that is A minor. But I invert it, which is, I think is the term for playing the notes, the same notes, but in a different order. And by playing them in a different order, you get a totally different emotion out of it and a different feel. So if I, instead of play A minor like that, I play it like that, you hear the difference. That to me just sounds nicer. But something I discovered very early on is it leaves this finger free. And that finger is a lot freer as well than if I'm up here. So if I'm up here, sorry, if I'm down here, I started to play like this. If I start to use these fingers, I can play, which is a trick I used to do in the guitar. If I play just a root note with this hand, nothing clever, no chords, just the bass note. So if I go, I'll start to do that kind of thing. So I think, that makes life interesting. So if you start to do it with all chords, you get. And you think, oh, okay. And if you start to develop sequences of chords, and by a sequence of chords, I'm talking about like if you write like a songwriter, so you've got an introduction and a verse and a chorus, a change, rather than an instrumental approach, you get a chord sequence of 4 chords, 4 changes, or 8 chords, or 6 chords, depending on what works for you. And if I just assign a few more sounds, a minute. Here's an extra trick. What I've done, I'm now playing three keyboards at once. So you'll hear strings and another sound. So it's no longer just that little bell piano. I've now got that going on. So if I start to play around with these fingers here, instead of just going, now if I play it this way, they're the exact same 3 chords. I'll do it again. My way. It immediately sounds like me, doesn't it? Now if I start to do this, and again I use these extra fingers because I can use those fingers when playing the chord this way. So what I would get is very kind of Medicine Woman like, and it's kind of feel. Hi and welcome back. Well, hopefully that just gives you, at least somewhere to start, a beginning. It's going to get a lot deeper, a lot more technical, a lot more interesting. You're going to see an awful lot more as the recording starts, because there's literally just the prepping stage, and I've written everything. So recording starts very soon. So there'll be other video blogs coming along, and hopefully it'll be interesting and you'll enjoy it. Something I'd like to say is if you're on Facebook or you've got the email from my website and you want to know something particularly, you want to ask a question, technical or otherwise, please do so, and I will try and include it in these video blogs and answer those questions. I think that's it for now. Okay. I'll see you guys on Facebook and YouTube and elsewhere on website. Okay. Bye for now.